Ooh, everybody, just take a deep breath with me. At the start of this episode. Woo! Woo, y'all. So, before I dive in on this one, I just have to say my body is like, ooh, all zhuzhed up. As you guys know, I mentioned I'm going to be on social media more this next month, and I'm checking my messages, and I just happened to pop over to Insta, checking those messages, right? Because I want to hear back from you guys. I want to hear how things are going, what you're thinking, all the pieces, right? And I get this message from someone. I'm not going to say her name, but basically being like, you take forever to make a point. You make vapid or minimal points. This is the worst podcast I've ever listened to. Y'all, going so far as to say you make women look bad. And this thing came in. And granted, y'all, after you hear the rest of the episode, you're going to have like a little bit more of a framework on what I've been going through lately. And as it first came in, I felt the activation in my nervous system, like that, this is I know what it is. It's a CPTSD response in my body. It's my body going, holy shit, I'm in danger. Which as a child, I was, somebody saying something like this, often, this coming from an authority figure or my mother, it did mean I was in danger. You can kind of hear I'm kind of coming down off of the adrenaline even as we're talking. And maybe I'm getting to like process an emotional flashback with all of you in this episode. Oh my God, that's really touching me at the moment. Because, the whole episode I have ahead for y'all, this is actually, so like quick, I'm going to do exactly what she said. I'm going to be a little bit roundabout and come back to this point. The episode I'm dropping this Tuesday, I'm actually recording this, of course, a week in advance, isn't the episodes I had planned. I already have a couple episodes that I've already recorded that I was originally going to have Alex drop before this one. But damn, if I just didn't today feel like I needed to jump on and talk a little bit more about where things are at right now in the world, the way I've been feeling this last week, and really kind of reach across the void to those of you that may be feeling the same. So, here I am. It's been a really tough week. I'm wanting to drop in, reach out to all of you, and in my effort to like, I know I've been saying I want to hear from them. I go and I get this message, right, from somebody really just letting their pain out on me. Because as I read this message coming off, right, I'm coming down with you guys. And as I read it kind of back to y'all, I can hear in her voice, this isn't about me ultimately. And what you're hearing there, what I'm doing in this moment is I am managing my CPTSD, managing the emotional flashback, the rush of adrenaline, the thought that I am in danger. And one of my favorite phrases from Pete Walker is, I feel afraid, but I'm not in danger, right? What has just happened is words coming through from another human on a device, words telling me, this person's opinion about me, right? And can we just I can feel the emotional flashback processing through my body as I'm verbally ventilating a little bit with all you guys. So that's a huge piece of it too. When we speak aloud, what's happening to us, our brain's kind of able to come out of that childhood, oh my God, I'm going to die response. And usually for me, often, sometimes what'll happen is like this gorgeous response that I'm feeling in my body right now, where I can kind of laugh about it. And what I want to laugh about is here at the end of this message, she says, please listen to Mel Robbins and get some idea of how to be efficient. I'm trying to help you. Thanks. Okay. Ooh, feels so good. So that right there too is when you start coming down off of the trigger and the emotional flashback and you get back into kind of more of your adult body, you realize like, oh my God, it's really just, okay. So there's multiple aspects, right? I start to see like, man, I just honestly, I feel for this individual. And I responded back to her just saying, hey babe, I'm obviously not your flavor. That's cool. Not many people like this much of a neurospicy flavor. I get it, y'all. If you guys don't think when I'm recording my podcast episodes and I go down rabbit holes and stuff that I'm not like, whoo, that's a lot. I mean, that's what I've been told my whole life. Then yeah, if you don't think I don't know that, I do. And I still show up anyways. And that really hits at the heart of what I do, why I show up in the world, because I don't want to live in a world where the only things celebrated and held up are efficiency and how quickly can you deliver a message and how succinct can you be. Honestly saying all this, I'm like, that's capitalism. That's patriarchy. That is white supremacy. That's all of it. There's only one way to do things, and that way needs to look this way. And if you don't do it, you're doing a bad job of it. So yeah, I am actually the whole reason for this episode today was to get on and say how tough it's been lately to be trying to exist in a world where the main messages coming, I feel like from the government, from the powers in control, are get back in line, pay attention, do the things. And if you don't, you will not be protected. So that's where the episode is headed today, y'all. What a incredible and unexpected gift that just happened. I mean, it was crazy, y'all. I was sitting down to record and I was like, you know what? I'm going to check my Instagram messages. I said I was going to do that. And here's the thing too. Let me just say for any of you, because I'm sure some of you will be feeling defensive, or how do I want to say this? This is just a perfect microcosm right now of, I believe, like what we are dealing with in the world. People who have been hurt, who have trauma living in their bodies, and then see others living authentically and being themselves, right? I've done the work to be able to show up on this podcast. Doesn't mean I'm not still vulnerable. Doesn't mean it doesn't still sting, trigger me. But I've done a fuck ton of work to be able to show up on this podcast and be my rambly, neurospicy self that takes a long while to make points, which just feels so yummy. Like just saying that aloud and owning that for myself. And that people who have done that work and are showing up in that way are really triggering for people who haven't. Okay. And I think we see that everywhere, right? That's what's happening with people who are trans. That's what's been happening to gay people forever, right? This attacking what's different, attacking people that love themselves, that are showing up authentically because deep down you don't feel safe to do that yourself. So my point was, for any of you guys getting defensive, we're okay over here. All right. And here's the truth. I get tons and tons of messages from all of you saying how much you love the podcast. So once again, it's just somebody's opinion that landed in my body as a CPTSD emotional flashback to my childhood that gave me an opportunity to work through it with all of you on this episode. How fucking cool was that? Oh my God. I love when this goes this way. Okay. So coming to the heart of what this episode is actually about, I really needed this episode right now to be about dropping in and just being honest about, what it has been like for me as a very empathic, open, neurodivergent person in the US right now. And Honestly, I have been feeling so much heavy anxiety and just like nervous system activation that I feel like is just the collective in the US right now. Like there's this underlying existential dread that most of us are living with and maybe not even consciously realizing. And for me, that has shown up in my body as being able to like really struggling to be present, really struggling to, in fact, I'm even going to slow down my breathing and the way I'm speaking right now. It's manifested for me as kind of isolating a lot. I have felt this like overwhelm being out around others. I've been staying home a lot at the moment, and it's just kind of felt overwhelming to be out in the world. And even my partner Joe has noticed this at work, that people just seem to be more on edge. They're less kind. They're more short. Everybody just seems rare. And I really like the heart of this is that many of us, especially those of us that maybe are not in line with the policies going forward, we are in the process of facing a future in the US that feels like absolutely uncertain. Okay. Especially like the stock market tanking last week, the tariffs going up. Like, y'all, I just want this episode to be a speaking aloud and acknowledging that this is really, really tough on human brains. Okay. What we've been going through since the start of January is like a nonstop onslaught to our nervous systems. And I wanted to especially say this when it comes to those of you that are considering whether to stay or go, because you've already been having that kind of energy of instability, what's going to happen, what's not going to happen for a while now. So this added, when we don't feel like the future is somewhat certain, right? It's never actually certain, but when we don't have some kind of framework for what the future is going to look like, it's really difficult to set goals or to dream about the future when you're not even sure if you're going to have a country by the end of the year. Like I don't know if any of you have gone to that spot, but my brain has definitely gone there a couple times. And I am going to caveat this episode by saying I do have two gorgeous, it's actually going to be a 2-part episode that I will do in the future that is going to be much more of a deep dive into this, of breaking it all down, of like what is actually happening right now psychologically, what I think is happening here for those of us in the US, and then how do you manage your brain around it? What is the framework that we have to kind of evolve into to survive this, to be able to function in this much uncertainty? But I wanted this episode, in keeping with the kind of more short and impactful, to be just this gorgeous little moment of me saying, hey, if you're hurting right now and feeling overwhelmed and noticing all of this dysregulation in your body, I see you. I relate. And I found 2 articles this week on Substack that I was like, oh my God, these are so incredibly helpful. I want people in my community to have these. So they're going to be linked in the show notes, and you'll need to subscribe through Substack. You can subscribe for free to these ones. If you guys haven't started using Substack yet, I just found it. I am finding it to be such a gorgeous refuge for like news and connection in a little more calm and integrated ways, is kind of what I would say. So if you haven't tried it yet, test it out. This would be a great person to start following and maybe reading from. But the first article that he had, I really, really loved, because he in it discussed how many of us are experiencing harm that is landing at this moment across multiple different regions, including personal, relational, and structural domains right now, right? This is, the structuralness of, okay, I don't have a last name that matches my birth certificate. What does that mean for my rights as a woman to vote going forward? Relational. I have family members that are big Trump supporters. And as you all know, I am really not in line with the policies that are going out right now. So the strain that happens there, right? I mean, I had like my brother reach out to me last week in a text, and I just couldn't even message him back because it's so difficult at this moment to wrap my head around how do I stay close with people that are posting things that I feel like are in support of very, very harmful policies to me as a woman, right? Okay, so relational and then personal harm at the moment, which I'm only going to dive into the personal harm. I want you guys to go read up on the other ones through the article. It's amazing. But the personal harm aspect is our nervous system, our sense of meaning, and our ability to act. And how this has shown up for me, the more that I've been learning about it, the more that I've been acknowledging like, hey, I'm struggling. This is seeming to have an impact on like, and y'all, I really haven't been dipping my toe that much. I've had to kind of step away a lot from the political commentary because it was just unsettling my nervous system too much to function. I couldn't really avoid it recently with all the tariffs and the collapse of the stock market. But the other piece I've learned is an authoritarian regime like the one we are in right now in the US, it triggers my childhood pain and narcissistic wounding. So I grew up in a world where how I felt, what I wanted, who I wanted to be in the world really didn't matter. And I got the message that I needed to sit down, shut up, and get in line. And I have done a whole bunch of work in my life to get away from Mormonism, to leave Mormonism, to clear that out, to ultimately leave the dynamics with my parents. So to now have that being reflected back to me by the government, which you guys know from my episode where I said like, whoa, wake up call as a white woman, right? To what disenfranchised and targeted communities and races have been experiencing in America forever. This has a direct impact on my ability to act in the world and to form my own meaning for myself and what my life is going to look like going forward. And what that can look like is sometimes what once felt purposeful to you now can feel fragile or disconnected. And boy, y'all, did I have this come up big for me this last week. Quinn was actually, in fact, not even this last week. Fuck, was this just yesterday? Fuck, this was yesterday. Everything lately feels like a day is a week is a month. It's really been building, but yesterday coaching with Quinn, I think because she was holding space for me, I had this whole multiple group of parts come out that were just really, really upset. And we're like, how can I support women who are perhaps in marriages that are unhealthy or where they are being emotionally neglected or abused? How can I support them and tell them like, you've got this, you can make it out in the world, when right now there may not even be their ability to vote may not even be a thing in the future. or coming into this week's big thing, there might not even be due process in the US, right? My brain went down this whole bender of kind of just that existential dread I mentioned earlier of like, why am I even building all of this right now if I don't even know if we're going to have, the infrastructure that we would need for people to invest in leaving their marriages or not? Like, do I need to be freaking selling my home and investing in homesteading right now? Do I need to like go buy a bunch of boxes and plant a whole bunch of food and start raising chickens? Because I just don't know. That was where my brain went. Like, is what I'm doing even going to matter in this climate right now? And I want to acknowledge that even with what I've listed, right, I am not even experiencing some of the most dramatic effects right now of the consequences in those areas for most people. So I want to acknowledge, y'all, that if you too have been finding yourself like end of days, oh my God, I don't know, should we be moving to a different country? Should we be, quote, getting out now? I've been hearing that a lot. For those of you that are not in the US, there are lots of posts being like, oh, I understand now why people didn't leave Germany. When people said, why didn't they get out? It's a lot more complicated. So that is an undercurrent right now that we are all here in the US like soaking in. It is in the collective. It is running through all of our psyches, our veins. So if that is what we are dealing with, how do we handle the onslaught? What can we do to help just start grounding back into ourselves? And the author, which I've got to get I need to get his name. Let me scroll up. There we go. Paul Shattuck. I love you, Paul. Thank you for this. This is I am so grateful to these humans finding ways to resource all of us, finding ways to take this fear and this existential dread and be like, nope, here's what we do instead. And what he said to do instead is this gorgeous little list that he created called 80 Tiny Moves for Everyday Resistance in the Authoritarian Harm Complex. And it's called Stay Human. So I want you guys to go look up this list. It is going to be what I'm pulling from as I continue in the world that I find myself waking up in each day to just keep staying human. So I'm not going to go through the whole list, but I wanted to list some of my favorites for y'all, and hopefully you'll go look at the list and find some of your favorites as well. Number 10 is say, I'm not sure yet. Let it be a position, not a weakness. Number 13, write down one lie you've stopped believing. Honor that shift. Number 18, use the word we instead of I in one sentence today. See what shifts. Fucking love that one. Number 23, keep a visible object near you that reminds you of who you are. Number 38, begin a playlist that helps you remember who you are. Music is memory. Music, y'all, totally does this for me. 41, wear something meaningful, even if no one asks. 48, stop apologizing for how you're surviving. Oh, y'all, that one hit me especially hard. I'm going to tell you real quick how I actually did end up doing that one this last week. 60, make a timeline of your moral clarity. Track what's stayed true. And 70, say, I'm protecting my energy instead of making excuses. Claim your boundaries out loud. So along with that, stop apologizing for how you're surviving. Last week, I was finding myself just overwhelmed by just me, by what was going on in my body, and not by, right, when I say me, by like how I'm handling all of this. It just felt like, whoa, too much. And instead of continuing to apologize, I proactively reached out to a few of my friends that I've been connecting with more over the last few months. And I just said, hey, I am having a hard time and feeling very overwhelmed by trying to stay in touch. And I am going to take space at the moment to support myself in the ways I need. And for me, being an extrovert, supporting looks like really hunkering kind of down in with only a few close friends and my partner, Joe, and my kiddos. So that was one small way that I did something on that list this last week. Another thing that I did today that I found that like really helped me and that I actually thought, oh, this could be awesome for this next month while I'm going to be on social media more, is I actually scrolled on Insta this morning, and y'all, it was so uplifting. I have done a really good job, I think I've said this previously on the podcast, of following certain accounts. And because of that, the algorithm now shows me like the best of humanity. I saw so many others like me also standing up and speaking out and saying, deporting people without due process is not okay. That is constitutionally wrong. Just to have people saying aloud, like, this is not okay, is so like, okay, yeah, I'm not alone. I also just got to see people being human still, being funny. There was a woman, in fact, I'll have to post it when this episode drops, but there was a woman doing a voiceover to this like track of music with dishes, pots, and pans. And I was like, oh my God, I love her. I was in my closet when I was watching it, and I did a full-blown dance party to this track with her. And I was just like, there's the shared humanity, right? I'm not alone. Also, thanks to social media. So this is like the gift too of, yes, it's hard sometimes to step back into all that information, right? But the gift was, some of the gifts that came out of it was, and when I say it's hard to step into it, it's hard because, like I said, the world right now just feels so overwhelming and unpredictable. But what made it good for me was that I have intentionally followed those accounts. So when I say it was hard, it wasn't hard because I was seeing a bunch of shit that was like overwhelming me. I really wouldn't even recommend, at least for me, going straight to the news anymore. It's just too inflammatory. But I've come to know certain people through those accounts, and hearing them and the way they deliver it, like I know which ones can land and help me stay connected into the pulse, which, awesome news about that too. Watching all of that today, I was like, I want to be a part of the protests on the 19th. It re-energized me with like, these are my people and I want to be out there with them. And one of the things that really inspired me that I hadn't realized was, we had all of those protests in April. And there's this statistic going around that's been saying, it only takes 3.5% of the population to topple a dictatorship. Have you guys seen this? And with the recent protests, we had over 5.2 million people come out. That is 1.5%. That is amazing. That's the kind of stuff that I want to be a part of. That's the kind of stuff that makes me go, okay, yeah, I know my nervous system is feeling flooded and overwhelmed, and I'm not alone. There are so many people out there speaking up, speaking out. And you know what it did in me seeing all of them? It re-grounded me. It re-grounded me back into that feeling, that I said I'd lost earlier, right? That like when we get stuck in the authoritarian regime, it can take what feels purposeful and make it feel fragile or disconnected. But connecting back into the collective made me reconnect into my purpose and realizing like, oh no, what I'm doing absolutely matters. In fact, it may matter now more than it ever has before. That may shift some. In fact, I talked with Quinn this week. She made such a great point where she was like, Britta, there may be a lot more women that may just timing wise end up staying for longer. And that actually means they're going to need your resources more, because the resources I teach, although a lot of what I talk about often ends up in the go realm, because that's what most of you are coming to me with, the gorgeous reality is it's the very tools that I used when I was staying. Like, it applies either way. It always has. That's why I've never been someone who is like, I just want to coach women that want to go. And that's why I'm always talking about how important the timing is, right? Because the work you're doing when you're staying is the work. It's the work either way. So just know, if y'all are finding yourself feeling that uncertainty, or like, okay, maybe the route right now is going to be to stay, I still got you there. I really do. And more so than ever now as well, I think the community is going to be such a huge piece, because the realities that many of us may be facing, right? The facts or the circumstances of what is happening in our economy, if you are here in the US, or, if you are losing your job, or all of those pieces, is you may find that you have to stay longer than you anticipated. And that doesn't mean you have to just stay and drown in all of the confusion and the dysregulation in your body. There's a place for you. There is a group. There is, that's the beauty coming out of all of this, is our grassroots communities are growing. The way we are reaching out and connecting and supporting each other is growing. So this episode was really just like a check-in for me, a moment to say, oof, y'all, I've been feeling it over here. I know some of you may be feeling it as well. And here's a little just punchy resource, this gorgeous list. I think what I loved most about this list was how gentle he is in so many of the things that he's mentioning. So highly recommend you go, sign up for his Substack and get the list. Just pick one thing. It just gets to be a small thing, right? And start reconnecting in with your humanness. I loved that he said, stay human. And that is my goal right now, is to not allow all of this chaos around me to start stealing my humanity. And yeah, I am also, the day that this drops, I'm going to go and put up a bunch of stories to my Instagram account that will give you kind of that gorgeous mix that I love doing on my stories. Some of them are going to be, politically very educational. And then also some of them are just going to be outright funny and yummy and like, oh my God, have you all gotten on the Pedro Pascal train yet? If not, come get on it with me, because yeah, I love posting also anytime I see like gorgeous displays of what I feel is like integrated masculinity, more of the masculine that we need to be seeing. Funny things that just like, okay, the world that I believe in and love still exists. Those people are still out there. Those are my people. And hopefully through, watching my stories, you'll also be able to like find other accounts, start following them, follow intentionally, so that you receive in your algorithm that you get to see those people, you get to see your community, you get to see the other humans that are trying to stay human, just like you. All right, y'all. Know that you are not alone. As always, if you are feeling that desire for more connection with other women, like not just through watching reels or connecting in that way, but actually women who are in the thick of it, going through the same things, the community is here for you. What a gift at this time in the world's history for me to be able to hold this container for all of you. I've had some of you join this week. It's been so lovely watching your videos. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to come and to apply and to ask for that support and be willing to give it. I think that's really such a huge piece of what all of us are needing right now. And if you're in a different spot where you're like, actually, I really am feeling like now's the moment, which may absolutely be the case for many of you. I remember that being the case for me. I actually got out of my divorce right before COVID-19 hit. I finalized in September of 2018, and then all of that hit, or of 2019, and then all of that hit in 2020. And I remember thinking, holy shit, thank God I did this now, because we didn't have to go through COVID together. So trust yourself. If you are feeling the push and you're like, no, I don't want to wait around. Actually, this feels right, like the right time, because that's what you go off of. Timing is not what's happening in the world. Does it seem scary? Then I'm just going to stay. No, trust your inner knowing. If your inner knowing saying, I'm thinking it might be now, get on a 90-minute session with me. I've got you. We'll work through those obstacles. We'll find a path for you to go forward. All right, my loves. Till next week. Mwah.